With 5 days to go, Donald Trump made a detour from key battleground states today. He went to a rally in New Mexico. It's not exactly New York or California, but it is not a state right now, based on the polling that we've seen, that he is expected to win. Trump insisted that victory is possible there and also falsely claimed that he had won there before.
We almost won it twice. And let me tell you, I believe we won it twice. Okay, you want to know the truth. And if you can watch your vote counter, if we could bring God down from heaven, he could be the vote counter, we would win this, we'd win California, we'd win a lot of states.
I'm not sure God wants to be brought into this, but I should note California has not gone red at the presidential level since 1988. Donald Trump lost the state in 2020 by more than 5 million votes. He's also never won New Mexico, despite claiming that it was rigged. You can see the numbers here. Biden defeated Trump there in 2020 by more than 10 points. Hillary Clinton won the state in 2016 by more than 8 points. My source tonight is North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, also a surrogate for the Trump campaign. Governor, obviously neither of those victories by Democrats had anything to do with fraud. So why is Donald Trump lying about past elections when we're 5 days out from the next one?
Well, I think the reason he's in New Mexico is because New Mexico is an energy state, and under President Trump's policies on energy, the economy, it's also a big border state, securing the border. Those are all things that I know matter to voters around the country. And I haven't campaigned for him in New Mexico. I know that in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, which are the states that are probably going to decide this election, those messages are resoundingly the top on the minds of voters there. Number one's the economy. Number two is the border, because border means safe cities.
Yeah, well, no one's saying he can't go there. He's just going there and lying about what happened in the elections. He knows he didn't win New Mexico. But Governor, I was thinking back today to 2020. On the election night then, Donald Trump came out before all the votes had been counted and claimed that he won that election. If you're around him on Tuesday, will you encourage him to wait until all the results are in and the ballots have been counted?
Well, I think on Tuesday night, what I'm optimistic for this country is that we're gonna know the victory on Tuesday night, and not a day later, 2 days later, weeks later. It's not going to change overnight, because I think the way I see it lining up and what I feel on the ground, talking to voters around the states that I've been in, is that there's a chance that if there's 1 or 2 states that don't have their count done because they can't figure out how to get it done on Election Day, there's still going to be an electoral college victory for President Trump on Tuesday night. So, you're asking a hypothetical. I don't think that hypothetical is going to come true. I think we're going to know the winner on Tuesday night.
Well, it's not a hypothetical. It happened in 2020, and Rudy Giuliani told Donald Trump to go out there and declare victory. Steve Bannon, after getting out of prison the other day, said that Trump's only mistake was that he should have done it at 11 p.m. that night instead of 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I just think, if you are someone he listens to, he consults you, would you encourage him to wait until we do have an answer of what the election results are looking at like before he comes out and declares anything?
Well, I think, again, you're going ahead all the way to Tuesday night. I think we've got a lot of campaigning to do, as you know.
It's 5 days away.
Record voting by Republicans, that's very positive to see that the early voting is record highs for Republicans. But you and I both know, Caitlin, that we could have in some of these states as much as 60% of the voting is still going to happen on Tuesday. And I think we got to focus on the closing arguments. And right now, I think the closing arguments that President Trump is delivering are the ones that are going to help him win next Tuesday, because he's at these events that he's at. If he's talking for an hour and a half, 98% of the time he's talking about what he's going to do for the American people in terms of getting the economy going, unleashing American energy, securing the border, supporting our allies, supporting Israel. I mean, all of these things ending wars. I mean, all of these things that he talks about are stuff that are the most important things in the minds of voters.
But on Tuesday night, I mean, we have a pretty good idea. We don't know for sure that we won't know on Tuesday night. We look at Pennsylvania and how long they take to count provisional ballots. There's a lot of mail-in ballots, obviously. It's different rules in different states. It doesn't mean that anything bad is happening in those states just because they are being counted properly. But Governor, you've run races before. Have you ever come out and prematurely declared victory?
Well, no, I haven't had to do that, but because we've been able to win by wide enough margins, we haven't. And I think, for America, we have to continue to be aspirational on this. I mean, India is a democracy. They had 600 million people vote across that country, and they got all the votes counted by the day of the election. So, I mean, we have to be smart enough in our country to keep driving towards having an answer, as opposed to, because people's confidence goes down when the answer doesn't come for a week after the election. So again, in states like North Dakota, we'll have an answer on that night. We've got everything in place to be able to deliver an answer. So whether it's a local election, a statewide election, a national election, we're going to know the.
Well, it took 4 days in 2020. A lot of that was because there was so much mail-in voting because we were in the middle of a pandemic, as you know. And also, if this race is close, it doesn't mean that there isn't anything wrong if the counting takes longer. There are also hand recounts in some states. Governor, I do want to ask you, because you wrote an op-ed a few months ago talking about RFK Jr., saying that conservatives can't trust him. And you said, you wrote his ideas are downright dangerous, and anyone who identifies as a conservative or simply as somebody who loves their country best steer clear. Is that advice that you would also recommend to the Trump transition, given they are considering him for some kind of high-profile role if Trump does win next week?
Well, I think what is good news is whether it's Tulsi Gabbard or RFK or regular auto workers that might have voted voted Democrat and their parents voted Democrat their whole life, that they're coming over and joining the Republican Party, because I think that they see that President Trump's policies are good for everybody. They're good for independents. They're good for Democrats. They're good for Republicans.
But would you trust him in a West Wing role or with access to vaccine data that is not hidden, though, that the transition co-chief said to me last night he wants RFK Jr. to have access to?
Well, I think, again, that'll be a decision up to the president on whether or not he wants to do that. But I think what is important that you're seeing is that the Republicans are building a broader coalition that they've ever built. President Trump is bringing in people way beyond what people think of as his base. And I think that's why you're seeing wherever he goes that there's a turnout of people that haven't voted for him in 16 and 20 that are voting for him this time around because they see that he's willing to listen. He's willing to listen. And I think the coalition he's building is working people that work and have a paycheck, people that are in retirement, worrying about how to make ends meet. That's who I'm seeing at all these events around the country. And it's pretty clear to them that they see a path with President Trump back towards prosperity. They were better off under President Trump than they have been under the last 4 years. And all the talking and all the name calling by the Democrats is not going to change their mind about their lived experience, which is they were better off under President Trump, and that's where they want to go back to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Trump is like the king of name calling, as you know. Governor Doug Burgum, thank you for your time. We'll see what happens next week. Up